Welcome to the Female Founder Unplugged podcast, a show for women entrepreneurs who want to build, grow, and lead successful businesses and high-performing teams. I'm your host, Lindsay White, leadership coach and people strategy expert, here to bring you unplugged conversations with a variety of amazing guests who share expert advice and real actionable people strategies for your growing business. Ready to get unplugged? Let's jump in. We're back for another great episode of the Female Founder Unplugged podcast. Today, I have with me the amazing Julie DeLucca-Collins. And Julie is, she's a sought-after TEDx speaker. She's a great business coach and an award-winning author who, I love this, is dedicated to empowering entrepreneurs and leaders. This is why Julie and I hit it off right from the start. She really plays in that space of being a trusted advisor for women who are thinking about establishing and then looking to expand their brands. She helps with strategy to grow reach. And she really is all about the tiny habits, which she's certified in, and is also a Thrive Global coach, which I love. So Julie published a book in September of 2021, which very quickly reached #1 in so many categories and won the award for leadership from the International Impact Book Awards. That's pretty cool, Julie. I love that. Thank you for being here with
Oh,
me today. I know we're going to have a great conversation.
well, Lindsay, thank you so much for having me. I tend to hear all these things that people read, and I'm like, oh, I did that. Oh, yeah, I did that. And again, I think that for anybody listening, be okay with knowing that when you think you haven't done a lot of things, you have. You just need to write them down
Yeah,
and have
100%.
somebody else read them to you.
And have somebody else read. I mean, that's what's really impactful, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because
Totally.
even if we read them to ourselves, we're like, oh, I don't know about that. But when somebody else reads them, you just kind of take a moment and say, oh, okay, I got it. I'm doing some stuff.
I love it. Okay, that is awesome. Well, so tell us,
Mhm.
what's your journey been? How did you get here, Julie?
Yeah. Well, the journey seems like it started yesterday. I came from a family of educators, and I always knew that I wanted to be a teacher. And in essence, in some ways, I am still a teacher, but I
Right.
started with preschool, pre-kindergarten students,
Uh,
and I loved it. I had a lot of fun. And 4 years in, I was exhausted. I was underpaid. I was broke. I knew that that's not how I wanted to live life, and I knew that I wanted more. I was recruited eventually for an educational company, and I grew through the ranks of the educational company. I eventually got to the VP level with them. I was at the right place at the right time with them. And also, the company was very good about training from within, growing their people, investing in them. And by the time I left, I'd been there almost 10 years. I reported to both founders and I got to travel with them. I got to spend a lot of time with them. And again, they grew their initial little mom and pop to a company that was national, that was doing multi-million dollars in businesses, was a franchise. And certainly I got an inside look at being a founder, but also understanding how to start, grow, and sustainably serve in the business arena and have a business that helps others, which really always, lights my fire. I went from that company to another company that was very similarly started by a woman, and she, former teacher like myself, wanted to again serve others, help kids who were struggling in school, help teachers. And she had seen some of the work that I did with the other company. We had gotten to be pretty friendly, and she said, you need to come and work with me. I want
nice.
to expand out of New York City into other areas.
Mhm.
So again, fast forward, I came to work with her and took her company from just being, and it was almost $1 million company, to a multi-million-dollar company outside of New York into 7 different states. And it was a wonderful, wonderful training ground for me.
Yeah.
Knowing that I wanted to go and do my own thing eventually, but I also saw things from the inside, from the perspective of a founder, and learned the lessons, but also understood what I could do different and what are the things that really could make an impact in starting a business, and
Mm,
where are the things that need to be in place in addition to just having the capital or just a great idea and
yeah.
some great motivation. So that's how it all started. And at the beginning of the pandemic, I was laid off. I had already been thinking, okay, what's my next chapter? I know maybe in a couple of years or so,
Yeah.
I'm going to take that leap. And it was scary. I'm
Yeah.
not going to lie. I had been thinking about it. And the one thought that kept coming is, what are my friends going to think that I'm leaving this successful career, well paid? At this point, I was part of the C-suite with that other company. We had
Yeah.
grown again to multi-million dollars. And I wondered, oh, will people think I'm crazy that I'm going to go out on my own when I have something that is very good, I'm good at, I enjoy, gets pays me well,
Yeah.
to go into the unknown. And the pandemic really was a turning point because the company was hit very hard. And I had the opportunity, I was offered a separation package
Mm,
because the company needed to have myself. I was the chief innovation officer, and then we had the chief operating officer. Both of us were offered a an opportunity to go, and mainly because the company had made some choices, right,
yeah.
that were not necessarily conducive to them surviving under a global pandemic unless they took some drastic
Right.
steps.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
again, it worked out well for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. It's funny. The universe doesn't always give you what you want, but it gives you what you
Mhm.
need. And
A
that's
100%.
it. I love that. Okay,
Yeah.
so you parlayed all of that knowledge, all of that experience now into your own business.
Mhm.
I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been the funnest ride I could have ever asked for, and a great learning experience. And I think I everything that I did before was preparation for where I am today and what I am
Much
doing.
is.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
And then tell us about writing this book, because I think
Mhm.
that's very interesting.
Yeah, the story of the book is something that I really can't believe. My thought was always to write a book. I had been keeping a journal forever, and I wrote a book in my spare time about my grandparents. And
Uh-huh.
I thought, great, I really want to bring this to the world. Unfortunately, I never really pursued that because everybody just talks about well, I want to write a book, but you really don't know. And then you also don't understand the process of getting a literary agent. How do you start? And it was always the someday I will get to that. And again, at the beginning of the pandemic, I, um, I didn't have this in my horizon, in my forefront at all. And I started to do some networking, and I happened to meet a guy, and we started talking about being me traveling to Spain to do the Camino de Santiago. Again, nothing related to the book that I had written, nothing related to the business that I had started. And the Camino de Santiago is this great pilgrimage. And he said, "Oh, I want to learn more." I said, I kept a journal from the pilgrimage. I can send that to you. You can read it as an online journal. And I sent it to him, and he replied and he said, "Wow, you're a good writer. I should introduce you to my friend. He's a literary agent."
Wow.
And I thought, what? Oh, okay. And I met with the gentleman, and I loved everything that he said. And I thought, oh, maybe this is going to happen. And fast forward, I did not pursue working with him for a lot of different reasons, but I was left with the idea
Yeah.
of, okay, a book, a book, a book.
Yeah.
And I then started working with a coach, and then he had a small publishing company. And he said, "You are a great writer. You really have this whole thing that you need to share with the world." I said, "Oh, well, I wrote a book already." And he said, "Well, that's not your book. That's not your first book."
Oh,
And
okay.
I thought, Oh, okay. He's like, no, you have to start all over from scratch. And you need to write about what you do for individuals. You need to write about how you help people. What is it that you're doing? And I thought, okay. And he said, but I don't want you to write it from what you know now. I want you to write it from the people that you talk to. And he challenged me to do 100 book interviews
Wow.
with women who were starting or growing a business. And then, my topic has always been confidence and going confidently, and also the habits that help me. And that was always going to be the premise of the book. But then I really started to see what are the things that women struggle with when it comes to confidence in building a
Yeah.
business, when it comes to confidence for themselves. What are the habits that they're lacking or they wish they had?
Mm.
And then the book is laid out in a way in which I take you through my story of growing through this corporate ladder and finding corporate success, career success, but also starting a business. And it's broken down into the different chapters of the key people that were confident dreamers, right? People who had achieved things in their lives,
Right.
but they did the things because they had the right habits. And not only did they mentor me, but I learned the right habits from them that helped them successfully reach where they wanted to go. And then
Right.
I myself implement those habits into my life. So it's 10 different chapters, 10 different people, and all of the simple habits that help them and me with the confidence. And that's what the book is about.
I love that. I love that. I love that you would share that so boldly. I think well, I mean, I think we all have a story to tell, but I think
Mhm.
sometimes we just need someone to say to us, you like, I want you to tell, like, we need the firm hand, maybe is the way to put it,
Yes, right.
right?
I agree. We
Yeah.
sometimes do, and that, sometimes as coaches or consultants, we have so many different passions, but we really need to have someone kind of hone us into the right
Yes.
direction. And that
Yes.
doesn't mean that you can't go in the other directions later, but
Yeah.
you need to stay consistent in moving in that step with your vision on the prize.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's wonderful. And I love that you've taken what you learned, like, what people offered you in terms of growing your career. And now you get to offer that back to women that are trying to build and grow their own business and really leverage their own passion.
Yeah.
So I think, when we can give back in that way, it honors the gift we've been given, is maybe the way I
Hmm.
would say that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You've said it correctly.
I love it. Okay, so I'm sure that you have learned some incredibly valuable lessons, clearly some great habits. What do you think is most important? What's the one thing that you talk about?
Hmm. One of the biggest things that I like to remind myself, even in the moments that maybe I am sort of in a couple different directions. I've been through a transition currently in my personal life that obviously affects my business, but
Yeah.
motivation is not what gets you to do the thing, right? Motivation can get you started, but it's not sustainable. And this is the same thing that I teach my clients as a tiny habits coach. Motivation is great, gets us started, but it's really the consistent action that will get you the traction that you want. The consistent action doesn't have to be big, but it needs to be consistent. And that's how you leverage the compounding effect. For me, it's important to remind myself that even if I'm showing up 1% better every single day and I continue to show up, then I'm going to continue to reach the goals and the dreams and the places that I want. And
Yeah.
that's really what keeps me going. But I think that that is the biggest lesson that most of us need to really hold on to,
Yeah.
because in a world where we see everybody doing it all, we think, oh my gosh, I need to go big. Or we think that we need to, like we hear all the gurus. I wake up at 4 a.m. and then I
Oh,
work out for an hour.
yeah.
And by the way, there's times in which I've done that and it's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there's days in which maybe you just need to sleep till 8 o'clock and you're just going to take a 30-second breather and you're going to sit with your coffee and you're going to feel the warmth of the coffee and smell it. and say, okay, I can do this today, and start slow and say, what is the next right thing that I can do today? Right? Maybe that is what it is. And that's really one of the things that I try to keep in mind. And I try to remind my clients we have to be the first ones to give ourselves grace. Because if we don't, we're going to be in a place that is depleted. And then we can't give to others what we don't have ourselves.
Yeah, 100%. There's so many great pieces to unpack there. I mean, I think this idea that motivation is great, but it is the 1% every day.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because you're right, we can't, as much as we're very passionate about our businesses, the work we do, the clients we serve, the passion is going to ebb and flow.
Hmm.
And it is the practice that
Right.
actually makes things real in our lives and in our business. So I love
Mhm.
that. I mean, certainly this idea that we need to have empathy for self.
Yeah.
We are
Yeah.
perfectly imperfect, that
Love it.
we are not going to get it right all the time. Come on.
Absolutely. And the thing is, our motivation, again, it's a great place to start,
Yeah.
but really create, so for instance, I have a little anchor moment, and throughout my day, I have several anchor moments. Anytime that I open a Zoom or I'm about to click on a Zoom, I take 10 seconds and I breathe and I say, okay, who am I going to be connecting with through the screen?
I love
And I
that.
remind myself that it's a real connection, that how can I show up as the best person in
Yeah.
this conversation, right? Well, I jumped into the Zoom and I was a little discombobulated, but I did have my little 10 seconds. That's my anchor moment. And there's other anchor moments throughout my day that remind me of who I want to become.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's key because you talked about there's lots of gurus out there
Mhm.
giving lots of advice. I scaled my business to multi-million dollars, do what I do.
Right. Yeah.
That worked for them. And that is
Yeah.
awesome. Celebrate their success, admire
Yeah.
what they created, but know that you're different and that's okay.
Hmm.
You don't
Yeah.
have to exactly replicate. In fact, even if you did, you might not have the same result.
Yeah.
And
That's
then
exactly
I
it.
love these anchor moments, like find the 10 seconds or the 2 minutes.
Hmm.
They're going to help you reconnect to who you are so you can be really present, show up for yourself and others. Julie, that's really impactful.
Yeah, and again, this is something that I remind my clients because we cannot control what
No.
happens in our day. We can't control what shows up on email. We can't control who is having a demand on you. But what we can control is how we're going to decide to show up,
Yeah,
who we want to become,
yeah,
because the person that we're going to be tomorrow
yeah,
is the person that began to act like that today. And that's
yeah,
the concept of the future self for me is incredibly important and has guided me a lot.
yeah,
I think that a lot of times we look back and we think, oh, how did I get here? We're living by default instead of
yeah,
by design. And
100%.
we have the power to design, and it doesn't have to be big, like a lot of the things that we think people do, right? Is there a time for massive action? Sure, there is. And I've done that, and I'm sure you have too, Lindsay.
Yeah,
But the massive action sometimes gets lost, and we think that that's all there is. There
yeah,
is the quiet, more intentional, small moments that add up. If I had a coach once tell me, her name is Jane Pilger, and I love Jane. One of the things that she said is, Julie, if you're filling your bucket one drop at a time, your bucket will get full. And I remember just thinking like, huh, you're right. Because a lot of times we may just open that spigot and then like it'll spill the water all over the place. And then maybe it'll have a burst and then it's not full. It just got quarter full because it was a big burst. But if there's a consistent drop in the bucket, that bucket will eventually be full. And that's what we forget about. We become too impatient with ourselves and with life, and
yeah.
we go the wrong direction.
Yeah, and you know what? I love that. The bucket gets full one drop at a time. I do think, we do battle against the messaging that
Mhm.
comes particularly on our social media. And let me be
Yeah.
clear, I think there's powerful things on social that we get to
Mhm.
share but there's also some of these influences that we internalize, and
Mhm.
that yeah, somehow it needs to be, to your quote, your words, massive action all the time. Well,
Uh-huh.
that's not
Yeah.
really sustainable. That's
No.
not the way to build a sustainable life. It's not the way to
Mhm.
build a sustainable business.
Oh, 100%.
That's not what works. I also, and you tell me if this is true in what you see, because I work with a lot of women where I see that who they want to be and then how they behave and how they show up are not aligned. And that creates a lot of anxiety and
Mhm.
stress and frustration and
Yeah.
over, because we're not super clear on what we
Mhm.
value and what our purpose is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, of course, then our actions don't line up.
Yeah. Absolutely. One of the things that I see a lot is I've been working with a client and she wants to do a lot of really great big things and she's incredibly impactful, but she wants to be somebody else. And I have to remind her that's not your gift.
Yeah,
And then what that person is doing, that person had a complete different trajectory than you do.
yeah, yeah,
And there's nothing wrong with, you know, trying to take the best of people and saying, "Hey, let me take that great quality." But don't use it in the same way that they do because maybe it doesn't fit you. It's like trying to fit into somebody else's outfit
yeah,
and it will fit you differently. If something was made for someone tailor-made, which is the individual characteristics
yeah,
of that person, and we're going to put them on. It may fit, but not in the same way that that
yeah,
person wore it because it was tailor made for them.
yeah. 100%,
You know?
100%. I love that. I want to ask you, what,
Mhm.
what about the way you lead in your business and how you're leveraging your leadership to grow
Yeah,
and be impactful? What does that look like? What's that experience?
sure. So, one of the things for me is from a very early age, I heard my grandmother talk about being a leader and not a follower.
Yeah.
And that always has been. Of course, I'm an extrovert. I'm a type A personality. I'm always outspoken. So being in front of people and taking lead has never been a problem for me. What happens, I think, along the way is that we have to learn the compassionate servant leadership that at times the world says we have to be strong or we have to be this, but a lot of times it's in the quiet moments of leadership. And for me, the quiet moments of leadership in my business is doing what I said I was going to do.
Mm,
Showing up for somebody. I have a client last night that is going out of the country for 2 weeks and she was having an emergency. And although I was a little bit tired and I normally don't talk to people at 7 p.m. at night, I
mm,
spoke to her.
mhm.
And again, I'm very good with some boundaries, but I'm
Yeah.
also very open to knowing that life is about the ebb and flow. And
Yeah.
we have to be able to make the choices that make sense. And for me, speaking to someone that was in a difficult situation that's going out of the country that needed my help was important. But
Yeah.
what does that mean for me today? It means that, and looking at my morning, I was not going to start at 8 o'clock and jump right into work. No, because I have a late night tonight. So I don't want to make it 2 nights in a row. So I gave
Yeah.
myself the grace and really created the space so that I am not burning myself out, which
Mhm.
that's what happens a lot with someone like me.
Mhm.
Even though we love what we do, we're good at what we do, we burn ourselves out doing it because although we're loving what we're doing, we don't give ourselves the rest and then we're not good to ourselves or to others. So
Yeah.
that's a little bit of what happens and that's how I think leadership starts with us. It doesn't matter, what position, what your title, what your job, what your company is, but all of us have that title of leader of our lives. And we have to decide what does that mean? What does it look like? And it goes back to what you said, Lindsay. I think that a lot of people, right, don't, want to do the thing, but they're not true to who they are.
Yeah.
So really
Yeah.
sitting down and knowing who you are and who you are and how to lead yourself will be the best lesson. And that's how I roll.
Yeah. Yeah, I really appreciate that. I always my phrase is leadership starts from the inside out.
Hmm.
We are all leaders. Every
Yeah.
single one of you listening to this show, you are in a leadership role.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have direct reports on an org chart. That's
Right.
how we often define leadership, is
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I'm the boss of somebody else, right? That leadership
Mhm.
is somehow fully relational.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, leadership is about how you show up in your own life, how you honor your own values, how
Hmm.
you wish to behave and be perceived, and the value that you create in your world, not
Yeah.
just at work, not
Agreed. Agreed.
yeah,
Agreed. And I think that again, I see this a lot, right? We think when we have the title or we have the
right.
people reporting to us, it makes us better. But that's not what defines you.
No,
I,
no,
I honestly think it is what you said, your values
yeah,
and how you're choosing to show up for yourself
yeah.
and then for others that will define you.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I
Yeah.
think that's absolutely true. And especially, I mean, a lot of us, we start out in our businesses and we're solopreneurs. It's just really
Hmm.
us. But we
Yeah.
still, we have to, we have to lead ourselves. We have to show up in our
Hmm.
business every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perhaps we have some consultants or contractors that we're working with. We need to lead
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
lead our clients. I mean, Julie, what you just talked about is totally leading your client. Um,
Yeah.
and I think we forget we lead in our, I mean, if you're a mom, you're a leader.
You're
You're
a leader.
tiny
Absolutely.
humans.
Yes.
If you are active in your community, you're a leader.
Hmm. Yeah.
When you let someone step in front of you at the grocery store because they have four items that they're hauling around in their arms, that's
Hmm.
leadership. Like I think
Yeah.
leadership happens all the time in so many different
Hmm.
ways, Julie.
Yeah. And by the way, again, I think that we have the picture of a leader, right? As someone who is this big, tough
Yep.
person who goes first. And sure, but leaders, like Simon Sinek says in the book, eat last.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Leaders are the ones who make sure that the well-being of the people that rely on them is first.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because leadership is not about, look how great I am,
No.
but it's like, look at how good I am at helping the people that rely on me.
Yeah, I think that that's really true. I had a boss. She is still a beloved friend.
Mhm.
And she always talked about your number one job as a leader is actually to create and grow and foster other leaders.
Yeah,
And so we can't
absolutely.
always do that when we're leading from the front. And
Hmm.
and let's be clear, in our modern
Yeah.
society and modern workplaces, the leader is often seen as the person who speaks the most and the loudest.
Hmm.
That's what we perceive as leadership. And
Right.
actually, in fact, it's our leaders that lead from the back of the room.
Hmm.
Leaders that
Yeah.
create space for other people to grow and learn and experiment.
Yeah.
Leaders that enable others, to your point,
Hmm.
Simon Sinek,
Yeah.
leaders that actually are deeply concerned about growing their team and other people, not even people
Yeah.
that are, directly report to.
Directly. Yeah. Agreed.
Those are leaders that have wide-ranging impact,
Hmm.
right? They
Yeah.
have the ripple effects are felt throughout organizations and communities and small businesses and teams, all of the
Hmm.
things.
Yeah.
I think that that's so key, Julie.
Yeah. I had a mentor once tell me, train your replacement.
Yeah.
And I have to say, in my early 30s, when I first became, I guess, a department manager, that was hard. And this is I think one of the toughest lessons I learned, and not proud of the leader that I thought I was, right? Because
Mhm.
I although I had that train your replacement, I was intimidated. Like, oh, if I give them, then what am I obsolete if I'm training somebody else? And that was the lesson that I had. It made me a better leader to fall flat and to realize that no, I'm not,
Yeah.
it's it's not that I'm going to lose my job. It trains me to be better, to move to somewhere else where I'm needed, or to change directions if I have to. But
Mm.
then there's always someone that comes behind you that,
Yeah.
and it's okay if they do it better. It's a testament to who you are if they do it better, greater, stronger than you were.
Well, you shouldn't always be the smartest person in the room. In fact,
Agreed. Agreed.
I do a lot of work like you do with small female-led businesses.
Hmm.
And in all reality, as you grow your business, you are going to hire people that do things that you actually aren't good at, that you
Hmm.
don't have great knowledge about.
Yep.
Now, you need to know enough to be dangerous, right?
Hmm.
Because you've got to be able to understand what's happening. But in all reality, they are going to do activities and tasks and have expertise that you don't have. That's why you've hired.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. That's why we're hiring people to be able to
right?
do that.
Because that's what helps us grow and scale our business is being able to find the right person to deliver the thing that you need that you
Hmm.
actually can't deliver.
Yeah.
Um, and that's where I think the leadership becomes even more important. You're
Hmm.
not going to do their day to day. Yeah,
Yeah.
training your replacement, yes, but actually then leading people that you actually they're smarter than you are at a lot of
Hmm.
things. And if you allow that to
Yeah.
rule the way you show up as a leader, you are in trouble. You are in a
Absolutely.
lot of trouble.
Absolutely. 100%. I just saw the transition of leadership in one of the local nonprofits that I volunteer with. And the CEO retired, and what a phenomenal leader.
Yeah.
Now, they did hire somebody else. The committee hired someone to come from the outside. It's an incredible individual. However, the organization kept going while this got their footing because the original CEO that retired had empowered the
Yes.
team to
Yes.
make decisions, to show up, to take initiative,
Yeah.
to run and be the smartest people in their realm and
Yeah.
use their gifts and talents. And this is something that not everybody does.
Yeah, I do see it. I mean, Julie, as a fractional CHRO, someone
Hmm.
who focuses on, building the teams and cultures in particular in organizations, I do see that. I get, clients come to me
Hmm.
and say, well, they're not delivering. We're struggling with accountability.
Hmm. Hmm.
The team isn't performing. And always my first question is, let's talk about your leadership
Yeah.
because it starts at the top. And
Yeah.
are you clear about your accountabilities? Are you empowering people to do the
Hmm.
work? Or are you getting in there? Are you mixing in? Are you mixing in? Are you getting in the way? Are you actually becoming the roadblock?
Oh, so many times that's what happens. We are the
Right?
roadblock at times. Yeah.
Right? Are
Hmm.
you keeping all the decision making to yourself? I see that a
Mm,
lot where,
yeah.
business owners become the stopper in the
Yeah.
business because every decision has to run through them.
Yeah.
You hired smart people.
Yeah. Let them be smart.
Let them be smart. Let them do the work you're paying them for.
Yeah.
Lead
And I have to
people.
tell you, that's what I learned a lot from the two founders that I reported to.
Mhm.
He was the CEO, she was the COO, but really that was the thing that they did. They surrounded themselves with the people who were the experts in marketing, the experts in IT.
Yes.
Because could we dabble? Sure. And by the way, I dabble. I'm a generalist at everything.
100%.
I've had to become a generalist in so many different facets of my work, of my business. But guess what? I'm not the best at doing XYZ. Do what you do best and delegate the rest to the person that's better qualified to do that, because that's the best use of your time, because there's things that only you can do.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. No, I love that. And I think and let me just say, I think that it can be very challenging because
Hmm.
we put our blood and our sweat and our tears into these businesses.
Yeah.
We care about what we do deeply. We're passionate
Hmm.
about the work. We know we have so much value to bring.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it that can get in the way of us
Hmm.
stepping out, lead the smart people, right?
Yeah.
You lead people, you manage tasks.
Right.
Lead the people so that they can get after it for you.
Yeah.
That is really the key to creating a thriving team and
Hmm.
ultimately a thriving business. And
Yeah.
you clearly
Absolutely.
watched that. I mean, what a
Yeah.
beautiful lesson to learn.
Yeah, one of the things that second company that I went to work for, that I was there for a while. This was the first thing that, I had to manage up with the founder of the company, right? She hired me to do a job and she trusted me. But one of the things that she was having a hard time, this is a little bit, when I think about it, I kind of think, oh my God, how did this happen? She was running her business with one AOL account.
Oh, Lord.
Everybody, every person that she had working for her, whether it be the payroll person or the office manager or the person that did IT, and by the way, the person that did IT, right? They were all communicating to the outside world with that one AOL account, because she wanted to read all the different communications
Oh,
and
my.
everything that was happening and what people were working on. And I said, number one, this is not sustainable for you, because then you're going to want to be involved in everything. Number two, when do you find the time to do what you do?
Can't even imagine.
So that was the first thing, that was the first order of business when I got there. No, everybody has their own individual Outlook account. We're going to have their individual things. And if you just ask everybody to give you a report what they're working on for the
Yeah,
week and
yeah,
have your one-to-one meetings, and then
yeah.
this way you'll be in a different place. And then get involved as needed. But I think that that's the thing. We think that we need to, if especially as founders, if we are the person that birth the thing,
Yeah.
we are invested more so than a lot of others. So yes, so we are going to want to be present. We want to know that our baby is taken care of. But
Yeah.
the reality is that the baby is not going to grow unless you allow it to go to school, unless you allow it to have the other people pour into it. It takes a village, and not only raising children, but building a business.
Well, right. And I think when you live in a place where your behavior indicates distrust, and that's what that indicates,
Yeah,
that,
absolutely.
that kind of behavior shows that you don't trust them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And so then they start to maybe not trust themselves and they don't
Hmm.
trust you. So
Yeah.
you have to operate like, the old idea of trust and verify. You have to trust people to do the
Hmm.
work that you've hired them to do. You've got to be clear about the account.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
got to be very clear in what your expectations are.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then what do you need to verify? Do you
Hmm.
need weekly one-on-ones? Do you need a daily 15-minute stand-up? Do
Yeah.
you, are there KPIs that you're measuring? That's how you
Oh,
verify.
God. Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly it. And I think that as a leader, right, knowing that you've got to let people make their mistakes as well,
Yeah,
because there's so much that we can teach, we can share, we can model, but ultimately the mistakes and the failures that we
yeah,
have are the ones that teach us the most. They're the
100%.
ones that are the most impactful for us.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think we do learn a lot when we experience things that don't go the way we want them to.
Mhm.
I think the key to that is actually in leaning in,
Oh,
explore.
so good.
So what
Yeah.
went well here? Because there's always
Yeah.
something we can pull out that actually went the way we wanted it to.
Mhm.
What was the
Mhm.
difficulty? What tripped us up? What was tricky? What got in the way?
Yeah.
Is there something we need to do to
Yeah.
mitigate
Yeah.
that? And then what
Mhm.
are we going to do differently? What would we fix and replicate?
Yeah.
That's where the innovation comes in. That's where the learning comes from. I really love that you brought that up
Yeah.
because I think sometimes as business owners and entrepreneurs, we get really afraid of failure. And in fact,
Mhm.
we need to do the opposite, which is step in
Yeah.
and embrace it and
Yeah.
the resilience and the energy and the learning that comes out of it.
Yeah. I mean, like, look at the example of Amazon, for instance. Think of all the failures. I mean, there's so many different failures, and there is a department that is just out there to innovate and fail.
Yes.
Fail fast, fail forward, and keep
Yeah.
going. And I think that if we allow failures to define us in a negative way, we're never going to grow. We need to define failures as learning that is like, okay, I learned how now to do it. Let me try it
Yeah.
again, right? Or I learned that nobody wants a fire phone, or I learned that
Yeah.
whatever it is, and it then it will allow you to then have something different that you can offer, because when you learn that that didn't work and you tried something else because that's not where your jam is, you're going to find the thing that really does
Yeah.
work. You're going to
Yeah.
find the thing that really does grow.
There's always a gift or an opportunity. And
Yeah.
I think, and recognizing that our brains are programmed to see the negative. That's our
Mhm.
operating
Oh,
system,
100%. Yeah.
right? But that
Hmm.
what we need to be able to do and we need to practice
Yeah. Yeah.
is where's the gift and the opportunity. That's
Yeah.
where the innovation lives. That's where the
Hmm.
learning lives. And so I love that you really highlighted that because I think as business owners, and recognizing that some of these failures cost time and maybe even more importantly, they cost, or sorry, they
Hmm.
cost money, but more importantly, they cost time. Time is super.
Time. Yeah. Right. And we
If,
can't bring back time. Time is the
no,
one thing. It
you
is
can't
that
manufacture.
one collateral that we cannot give away just randomly.
No, no, you can always make more money, but
You
you
can
can't
always make more
manufacture.
money.
But
Yeah.
realistically, if you can come out of everything that didn't go, I mean, we're using the word failure, which makes it sound really
Hmm.
catastrophic, but every time something doesn't go right,
Hmm.
where's the learning? Where's the opportunity?
Yeah.
Where's the
Yeah.
next step? Where's the iteration? That
Absolutely.
then then it's time and money well spent.
Yeah. But I go back, and I actually said this. I had a conversation, haven't been in education for so long. I had a conversation with somebody, and we live in a society, again, we look at failure starting when we're in school. You get an F, you get an incomplete. It's something is wrong with you. You're broken because you're failing. Where we need to celebrate the effort. We need to celebrate the person that says, I don't get it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and say, "Ooh, great job. Let's try it again. Let's figure out another way." Or how can you, right?
And
And I
you.
think that that's what we need to shift also our ability to look at things.
I love it. I love this conversation so much, Julie. I feel like we could go on for hours today.
I know we can. We
I
can. You're
know.
amazing.
No, it's almost a shame to cut it off, but I do really appreciate your thoughts. These are just such just beautiful ideas around how we can lead with really incredible impact, starting with ourselves. And
Mhm.
I really appreciate this conversation today.
Oh, Lindsay, thank you for the opportunity to chat with you. I love talking about fun things that, light my heart on fire.
Yeah, 100%. Where can people find you to connect with you, Julie?
Yeah, well, I am Julie DeLucca-Collins on all of the social media platforms. You can always send me a DM. I love to respond and chat with people. Also, you can find me at goconfidentlycoaching.com, and my podcast is Casa de Confidence. You can find everything about my book or any other programs that I have on the website, goconfidentlycoaching.com.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing all your beautiful wisdom today.
Thank you
Um,
so much for having me. I really enjoyed our time together, Lindsay.
yeah, me too. Me too. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Female Founder Unplugged podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening as much as I did hosting this conversation. I feel so lucky that I get to connect with such amazing female entrepreneurs. And if you enjoyed today's session, would you do me a big favor? Would you hit subscribe and give this episode a 5-star review? I'd also love it if you would share with your friends. We've got a goal here at the Female Founder Unplugged podcast to impact 1,000 female founders. And with your help, we can really amplify the message. Thanks again for being a part of the show. And don't forget to connect with me at highvoltageleadership.ca. We'll see you next week.